This Thrive Loud episode is brought to you by Hinge Consulting. Success on Amazon hinges on well-executed strategies. Contact Hinge Consulting to learn about total Amazon channel management and to see if your business has what it takes to grow over 300% over the next 12 months. That's Hinge Consulting at hingeconsulting.co.
Today on Thrive Loud.
My core at the end of the day, it all goes back to why do I exist? Why do you exist? And once you find out your core, once you discover your core purpose in life, you never stray too far from it.
Now I'm getting really excited. Okay, this is the part where we're going to get loud.
Holy crap, here we go.
I like telling stories.
I learn best through experiences.
Everything I do is because of everything I did.
Talk about having maximum impact while having a ton of fun.
When you can net through that, what you do leave behind for your listener will have more impact.
Wow, bring it on.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. Today on Thrive Loud, we bring you serial entrepreneur, coach, cheerleader of people, international leadership speaker, lover of life, author of Lead the Way. We have the Robb Holman here today. Robb, how are you today?
Lou, doing great. I'm so excited to just meet you and get to know you a little bit better. And I'm already enjoying our conversation pre-recording, so I can only imagine what's going to happen during the recording. So
at the time of this recording, this is ahead of the NFL championship weekend, NFC and AFC championship weekend. So our good guest here, Robb, is a Philadelphia Eagles fan. We will know what have happened at this particular point, but we'll put that aside and we'll talk about it afterwards. But he's hoping for a green and white victory this weekend. So good luck.
You better believe it. Listen, I held off on the face painting for our interview today, but come Sunday, you never know what you're going to get.
And that is a good thing because we do recognize that, it doesn't transmit over audio, although I could have used it as the show art for today's show.
I love it.
All right. So I love it. Look, when you have two highly energetic, motivational people like ourselves, we try not to knock over our Thrive Loud listeners, but in the same sense, we're always about lifting them up. So why don't we do this? I'm going to pass the baton to you. You're going to give our listeners a little bit of a journey on how you got to what you're doing today. And what's going on. We'll lead into, obviously, the book and the message that you carry, and I will interject appropriately. That sound good for you?
Sounds great. Listen, my journey, I'll go back. I was going to kid around a little bit and be like, when I was 5 years old, this is what happened. But listen, I'll go back.
It's been done before, by the way. We've had people go all the way back to the womb, it seems.
I'll go back to my senior year of college. Because it was so momentous for me. It was such a huge life milestone. Going into my senior year of college, age 21, arguably entering into the best year of my life. I was a college basketball player. I was a business student at a small private university right outside of Philadelphia called Widener University.
Okay, cool.
And captained the basketball team, excited to have a wonderful season. The only problem, Lou, is I had a mass in my abdomen that went undiagnosed for about a month and a half. Oh. And this spanned from, starting when I first found it in July, went to the college campus in August to get a basketball physical. And the doctors said, you need to get some tests done right away. To make a long story short, quite a serious and intense season for me, to say the least. I was emotionally, spiritually, physically, I was a mess during this time, especially, I just wanted a diagnosis, a clear diagnosis, so I could know what to do, how to handle it. Doctors were not ruling out cancer. And I missed some of the preseason at my senior year in basketball until I saw an ultrasound specialist at UPenn Hospital in Philadelphia. And I got checked out this time, and they could not actually even find adequate words to describe what I'm about to share with you. Okay. And that is, for a month and a half, this one undiagnosed, clear pain, clear mass. And now I go in, this doctor checks me out, this ultrasound specialist, and now I have absolutely nothing after they're checking me out. And it was so bizarre, but absolutely amazing that what I came in with to this doctor's appointment, I left without any mass or tumor. It was literally a modern day miracle. Now, I got to say this to you. Leading up to that day in my life, purpose for me was winning the next basketball game, hanging out with the guys and going drinking, et cetera, et cetera. But now I'm asking a whole different set of questions, even at that young age. Why am I here? What's my purpose? Why me? Well, then I literally now have a newfound boldness and purpose and passion just infused in my life. And so I go about my senior year, the rest of my senior year, and we had a successful basketball run, second round of the NCAA tournament. And I was a business student. Now I was even more attentive in class. I mean, it's just amazing. The perspective shift, the awakening in my heart and my life. Well, I graduate and, I'll never forget, graduate after that, year. And I literally am asking questions. I'm out on my mom's deck where I lived in Eagle, Pennsylvania. And I was reading the book, What Color is My Parachute? And I'm like, what do I want to do with my life? I know my life matters now more than ever. And there's a reason why I was miraculously healed. So I started saying, I don't want to wait 25 years to do what I love doing. And that entrepreneurial, depth of my being came alive. And I was like, you know what? I love the game of basketball. I love the next generation, and I love encouraging and inspiring people. So there started my entrepreneurial journey where I started my own motivational basketball program business for kids. Cool. And then slowly but surely that started my journey.
So I was going to ask you, obviously you're an athlete. A lot of times, by the way, and to have that foresight or that reality, hit you in the face like that, and to basically say that you wanted to go help and start working with kids, which is, by the way, great because that's what you know the best.
Yeah.
How are you able to grow that? Because you've obviously channeled it from working with young aspiring athletes and children growing up, and then it's matriculated into something a little bit different. Can we talk a little bit about how that's maneuvered over the years?
Absolutely. So for me, once you understand your core, and for me, there was no doubt, slowly but surely, from age 21, even leading to starting that first company, I knew my core at the end of the day. It all goes back to, why do I exist? Why do you exist? And once you find out your core, once you discover your core purpose in life, you never stray too far from it. Matter of fact, even if you try to leave it, it'll follow you. And so for me, I wanted to channel it with the younger generation in that season of my life. However, what I've found is throughout the years, it'll be channeled with different audiences, different groups of people. And it's led me up. So for instance, now I get to coach, obviously, mature adults that are leaders of their own businesses, executives in leadership. And the thing is, I actually still tap in to teaching kids because I make sure to bring the kid out in you. And don't let the kid in you be stifled and shut down, because every child has a spirit of curiosity, a spirit of creativity. And for me, whether I literally work with young children or I get to work with adults and bring out that kid in them, now they become that much more alive. So I guess what you're hearing me say is, whether it is, the actual age, or it's bringing out that younger age in every person so they can live more of a vibrant and purpose-filled life, it's really the same because I'm not straying too far from my core message, and bring out the person in each, the purpose and passion in each person.
So it's really great. Obviously, you and I overlap on this concept because one of what I call the connecting core and the way you connect with people, I have this muscle, which I call the super why, which is exactly that purpose and the core that you are defining, which is great. What you just brought up brought me a flashback to, for those Thrive Loud listeners, when Angela Myers was on the show, when I asked her who she seeks to get back on the thriving track, she talked about, she goes to 5-year-olds because she's an educator and she works with lots of kids and helping them actually recognize that they matter. And what you just described about, that energy that is within kids is aspiring, and bringing out the kid in you is so important because, that 5-year-old version of ourselves is great. I'm not trying to quote Adam Sandler, right? Like when he tries to get everyone in one of his movies to tap into I forgot which one it is because they're all the same, basically, but the same idea.
I know. That's a good point. That's a good point. And Lou, really, if I could jump in too, speaking of 5-year-olds, here's what I've come to understand. Now, I have a 9-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So I'm not too far removed from this age-wise, right? Just with my own children. There's one question, and it's very short. It's actually a one-word question that every child asks quite a bit. And it's why.
Yeah.
And many times as parents, in the heat of the moment, it's easy just to be like, because I told you so. But one thing my wife and I really, I know, isn't that just true? But one thing my wife and I really try to do is we're committed and we hold each other accountable to doing this. We want to, as frustrated as we may be in the moment, we want to take the time to explain why. Because again, now, as adults, as business leaders and owners and executives and working professionals, we ask why a lot too, but we're much more sophisticated in how we do it. See, kids, we just cry out, why do I have to do this? Why? We do the same thing as adults. We just button it up a little bit more. So for me, taking the time, whether it's a parent with your own kids or whether it's, you're a leader of a team, taking the time to help others understand why, it only begins to tap in to their childlike experience, that vibrancy, that enthusiasm, that passion, and that purpose in them, and make that come alive yet again.
So I'm going to ask this question because I'm curious because I have certain ways in helping to draw out what people's super why is. How do you help coach top performers and leaders to identify their why?
Yeah. So the why for me, if you want to understand your why, you got to understand who first, in my opinion. And so a lot of times we just jump into, why do I exist? Why is this? Why is that? And I'm like, if you want to understand your big why, like why do you exist apart from 7.5 billion people on planet Earth and arguably over 100 billion that have ever lived the Earth, it really starts with the question, who? Who are you? And so I help people unveil 5 practical areas of their life to help them understand who they are, that then now when you understand who you are, you can begin to unpack why you exist. So number 1 is, okay, so what are your personal core values? The things in life that are important to you, that you operate and function out of these core convictions of the heart, and you're making decisions out of these things all day long, but may not even fully realize it. So number 1, what are your personal core values? Second, what are your top strengths or natural talents? Things ever since you were a young kid just come much more easily to you. And as a matter of fact, there's an abundance of fruit that just comes from these things, these natural talents, if you will. Third, what are your greatest passions in life? The things that aren't work. They're the farthest thing from work and actually have you leaping out of bed in the morning in which to do and to accomplish. Fourth is, what are your life milestones? The things, both good, bad, and ugly, that have happened in your life that help shape you and form you into the person that you are today. And then the fifth and final is, what's your primary gift that you've been given? And gifts aren't meant for you. And some of this feeds into natural talents and strengths. I understand that. But for you, what's the gift that you've been given? Are you a natural encourager? Are you a compassionate person? Are you just a God-given leader? And gifts aren't meant for you, but they're meant for you to utilize on other people. So when you're no longer on the planet anymore, it's a legacy you leave behind. So I've just helped people understand these 5 areas. And when they understand who they are in these 5 areas, now they're affirmed and encouraged, and it leads directly into, okay, now knowing this, why do I exist?
Gotcha. Do you find, I wanted to go this, does your purpose on your why change? And I know that's a tough one, because at the end of the day, sometimes I find that it's a matter of how well you've defined your why. And sometimes you might think what your why is at one point, or your who. However, if you drill down a little bit, and as time progresses, you actually can help better define that because of other experiences or other things, or you're actually able to dig a little bit deeper. Have you find that your why changes?
Yeah. So here's what I like to say is, at the end of the day, it can shift and change. See, purpose, your why, it's going to supersede goals and accomplishments, titles and responsibilities. So the moment that we actually start thinking or attaching too strongly our purpose, our why, to a goal, even a goal or an accomplishment, we're not going deep enough. Purpose is such that, words can't even adequately describe the depth of how you feel in your very being surrounding your why. But we try to find words because words help, and they not just help ourselves, they help other people. So I'm going to go back to what you and I were talking about just a few minutes ago. Remember how I said that I never strayed too far from my core? There's something people ask me all the time. They call me like the why guy. What's your purpose, Rob? My purpose is to help other people understand what their purpose is. Now, at the end of the day for me, when I get a chance to help people discover or rediscover why they exist, that's when I come most alive. That's my core. Now, that could be channeled at different times and different seasons with different people, but I'm never going to stray too far from my core. So to get back to your question, can my purpose change? I think your purpose can shift, maybe the audience or how you channel it. But once we find out the core, I think there's greater levels and degrees and depths of that why. But I don't think your why is actually going to change. I think how you channel it and who you channel it with may change. But at the very core of it, I think there's greater depths than actually seeing it change in a sense. Does that make sense to you?
Right. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. It to your original point, you never stray too far from it. And sometimes it's a matter of making sure that it rises almost like cream rising to the top type of thing, that how you define what that core is can get more robust as you over time with that. I always say I work with the most amazing people and companies and make them even more amazing. And that's what I've literally was put on the planet to do. And I've recognized it took a while to help put the words into what that is and how I do it. No different than how you're helping people. Here's a nice segue, lead the way. And I wanted to ask you a little bit different than what the book is about. I wanted to ask, because this is something that I have a lot of authors and motivational speakers and entrepreneurs and coaches come on Thrive Loud who are amazing and energetic. I want to hear about the writing process for you and actually putting the book together. What was that like for you? Interesting. The reason I say this is that some people are natural writers. Some people need to speak the stuff out, package the messages. What was putting your book together, Lead the Way, that experience like?
It was amazing and extremely challenging all at the same time. I mean, it just, and I'll break that down a little bit because I love the question. For me, I am more of a natural speaker and communicator as it relates to speaking in front of people or speaking online to people or being interviewed. I just am more natural. It's not as much hard work. What I found, Lou, is writing for me is a whole lot more challenging because I have all these thoughts, these pages in my own heart and my mind of what I want to get across, what I want to articulate. And it's like, I don't even know where to start. Sometimes I can be paralyzed of putting the pen to paper, so to speak. Now, I've been teaching on my inside out leadership philosophy for over 20 years. However, it wasn't until about 2 years ago, people kept on tugging on me to say, Rob, would you just write something in concise form and fashion so I can have it, so I can encourage other people with it that might not have an opportunity to hear you speak or whatever the case may be. And I finally, with all the tugging, because I knew it would be harder work for me, I said, I'm going to do this thing. And, once I started to write, like many artists, like many authors, there was in the 2-year span that it took to write, there were certainly seasons and times where it was a little easier than other times. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
However, do you know what really freed me up is when someone said to me, have you thought about transcribing your work? Have you thought about like some of your keynotes and some of your workshops internationally, nationally, locally? It doesn't matter. Rob, you can actually like have them transcribed and that could be a starting place for you. And then once they're transcribed and going from like the audio into the actual like text on the computer, then you can massage your thoughts and come up with some maybe new illustrations or whatever the case may be. And do you know, when I started to do that, I started to move with a greater freedom. And everything. I started to be more encouraged in the writing process because I didn't feel I wasn't as frustrated or challenged because I'm more of a natural speaker.
And by the way, I not only am in sync with that is actually what you described, how I came up with my book, the same thing. I needed to speak it out because I speak first. And this was an interesting conversation I've had with educators. Look, it used to be they needed to teach you how to write and how to learn by reading. And that was the way that you needed to learn. And that was the way you absorb things. And education is changing on the way that you intake this information today. Hey, some people listen better by listening to podcasts or listening to books on tape. Some people actually are better at reading and transforming that ability into their brains. And some people need to communicate it orally.
Yeah.
You flip that around as it is to creating the content, it shouldn't be any different. And there's all these different ways of doing it. I think we're, becoming more open to, hey, people learn in different ways. Yeah. People need to communicate in ways that are most effective. I always find it fascinating. I've met many people who are amazing writers, and they're the exact opposite, where they actually need to put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard
Right.
and write it first before they can communicate it. And I always find it fascinating. And I was guessing that was the way that you were leaning because of the person in the mind that you are. It's a fun process and really frustrating to that point, which you described.
Oh, it is. And I'll tell you one other little quick thing that helped as well is, I do blogging as well, and I write articles, and they typically be in between 400 and 600 words. And I just found that people like a shorter blog article as well. And that helped me too, over the years, not just speaking, but I just collected more of my heart surrounding some of the lead the way principles, inside out leadership principles that I've developed over the years. And let me just wrap my arms around all those articles and also put those down. So I think with the collective effort of transcribing as well as collecting my blog articles, both really helped. Not to mention, what truly inspired me in the writing process that made it so much easier in the midst of some of the challenges was thinking about all the people throughout the years that have greatly influenced me in a very positive way. Everyone from my mom to my wife, through people that had passed away, leaders that had mentored me, writings that I've come across their writing maybe years ago or maybe up close and personal in today's day and age. And for me, even at times it brought tears in my eyes of just gratitude of I'm so appreciative for this person or these people in my life of getting me to where I was, in that particular point and where I am today. And so thankful for that in the process. Gave me the push that I really need to really get through.
Just to go back to that, in part of a question I love to ask all the guests, is there one particular person that you go to more often to get you back on the thriving track?
Yeah. This could be an obvious, maybe for some people and for some leaders, it's my wife. And maybe it's not so obvious for some. Sometimes the closest people to you, we can overlook. Maybe because you would become so familiar with their voice, the sound, them speaking truth and love, them loving you, But for me, I've got to say this. I'm around so many gifted teachers, trainers, motivators, inspiring people. But I got to say this. My wife is my greatest encourager, my greatest cheerleader, my greatest support system. And there were times where she looked in my eyes and she said, "Hey, Rob, you can not only do this, but you need to do this. And here's the reason why." And she really pushed me. She pushed me in more difficult times. She pushed me in more trying times. And just that push of encouragement and love and accountability was exactly what I needed. So I'm really grateful for her.
Behind every great man is a much, 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 much greater woman. And we'll make sure to take that piece of this interview and put it at the front so she hears it right away.
Yay!
So, that becomes the opening part.
That
might help you.
Trust me.
happy wife, happy life. We all know it. Okay. So let's obviously, I want to ask about the fun things that you like to do. Let's go. Do you still play basketball? Do you still play?
Yeah. So I played about 7 years of pro ball getting out of college too. Okay. So my entrepreneurial journey, which we didn't get to, which we don't have to go down this road too much, but I did play 7 years. So it's ingrained in me of playing the game that I have played so many years and that I love so dearly. But I haven't played that much over the last 9 years since my oldest, my first child was born. Right. I go out and shoot, and it's definitely a joy for me. I've played in a couple leagues since my son was born. Actually, just one particular league since he's been born. But now I'm 42, and I'm starting to ask the question, Lou, do I still have it? At the end of the day, so I have friends of mine that are calling me up. Hey, we just need one. Hey, Rob, can you play? And it does take time to play in a league. So I go out and shoot. And now, with my kids starting to play basketball at their young age or young ages, now I go on out and teach and coach them. So I don't know. I mean, I still go out and shoot. I keep in really good shape. I run a few days a week. I hit the weights, and I do go out and shoot occasionally. So I am asking the $1 million question, like, should I join the next basketball league to see if I truly still have it? But I love playing hoops. I love exercising, and I love reading good books. So,
right. I was going to add to this that I love playing, but I find that there's a Tuesday night league in the town that I live in, and for each of the times that I've shown up, and it's more just pickup, the level of injuries that come back. Just because people are, they're not in the shape they used to be, so they're making it up by either elbowing, pushing, or shoving, or doing something so stupid that I literally come back. I go, it's really not worth it. It's not as much fun as it used to be, but I do love the game.
Oh my goodness!
I didn't play at the level that you did. Obviously, I actually played more volleyball than basketball. But I will say that it's still a fun game, and actually, I think you appreciate just how unbelievable the best of the best are. Having played pro, I think you have appreciation for how great some of the top ones. And by the way, kudos if you're a Philadelphia fan. They're finally starting to look actually pretty good.
They are. I know. Well, it's so funny, Lou. Embiid has, Joel Embiid. He's flown in on his cape. And he's kind of like given a breath of fresh air to the Philadelphia that we're just so hungry for the next title, let alone, of course, we're happy with any win we get, but we're happy for someone to bring home a title sometime soon. Maybe it's our beloved Eagles. Maybe in the next few years, it'll be the Sixers. But yeah, with Joel Embiid, it's been awesome to kind of, the revitalization of the Philadelphia 76ers. So it's pretty cool.
So Rob, look, great leaders and great communicators always have one key message that they would love to share with everyone. Is there one takeaway message you want the Thrive Loud listeners to go home with? It's something that they can focus on and work on to help thrive themselves.
At the end of the day, take time that's necessary. Push the pause button on your life. And I know how difficult this is in our culture, in the Western culture, and really world culture as well, to slow down. But I'm going to encourage and I'm going to exhort your audience, as I'm encouraged in the same way, is take the time that's necessary to know who you are inside and out. In other words, to discover or rediscover the seeds of greatness that are on the inside of you. Because life is way too short and it's way too significant to go through the motions. And we can still have some level of impact, but we're talking about maximizing your God-given ability on this planet. And listen, so many people are listening and they may know who they are to some degree, but there's always greater levels and greater depths of understanding, and not just understanding, but truly embracing who you are, because the world, your team members, your workplace environment and culture is waiting for the real you to stand up and to walk confidently and to speak courageously, because here's what begins to happen when you do. Your why becomes that much more significant and purpose-filled, and now you can lead other people in that same very way. And can you imagine a leader that grabs a hold of who they are and why they exist and begins now to encourage those that they lead in the same form and fashion? Now you begin raising up a team, and dare I say an entire culture, to not only influence internally their business, but now to actually, with broad reaching arms, begin to influence the community around them. Powerful things begin to happen. So
super stuff, man. And a great message. Rob, give us all of the plugs, places where people can find you and how they could seek you out, social media, the websites, etc. Share away.
Two primary ways. One is my personal website, which is Robb with two B's, Holman.com, RobbHolman.com. And the second is with the recent release of my new book called Lead the Way. It's leadthewaybook.com. Those are two of the greatest resources for you. And thank you so much, man.
And it's been great having you here. Let's bring this home here. Your all-time favorite movie?
Without a doubt, it's Good Will Hunting. Good.
Okay, so let's cover this out. This is a Philly guy taking an ultimate Boston movie as one of his favorites. So what is it about the Damon Affleck classic that you like so much?
Number one, I saw 3 times in the theater. Very few movies I've seen 3 times in the theater. Yeah, and there's one particular thing that jumps out to me. The relational dynamics in that movie are crazy good. There's literally Matt Damon, who's Will Hunting, and his relationship with his therapist. There's Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, the two Boston best friends, and their friendship. There's Minnie Driver and Matt Damon, or Will Hunting, and his girlfriend, that dynamic. And then there's the professor at MIT and the Robin Williams relationships, who's a therapist. There's so many. It's like a diamond. That movie is like a diamond with all these amazing relationships that are going all these different directions. But at the end of the day, there's a core message that they want to get across. And I think it feeds a lot into what we're even talking about today. And I'll leave everyone with this. If you haven't seen it, it's a must see. I won't give much more of it away, but I got to go see About a Girl. That's the
I was going to say, how about them apples? But you could look, I think it is a great, what you just hit about the dynamic amongst the people. Actually, one of the scenes that I think is spectacular, and this is great for any entrepreneur, any leader. We're talking about somebody who had an unbelievable talent of who he was, right? This was one of the most brilliant people you'll ever run into. And he was obviously surrounded by this safety net and stuck within the walls of what he felt comfortable with. And I love the scene when he's grabbing a beer after doing some kind of construction job with Ben Affleck, who basically tells him, look, if you're still working here in 20 years, I'm going to kill you. You know, like you've been given the lottery ticket and you haven't claimed it. And it is such a great message to everyone that recognizes seek your talent, like yourself, and finding the passions within you and all the messages you've given. It's such a powerful movie from all of those things. And I never thought of it from what you said. The dynamic of the dialogue is really great of those interactions. It's really well done. And a classic. So yes, I'm pretty sure most of you were worried about giving it away. I'm pretty sure most people have seen Good Will Hunting. You saw it 3 times in a theater. I mean, come on.
If not, I might like to say to your audience, come on, what's going on now? It's such a, and again, I watch it today. You know, it's a good movie, Lou, when you've seen it 20 times and the 21st time, it's as though you've never seen it before. And there's always something new you can get from it. There's always a greater, new dynamic or a new, twist or turn. That's how you know. And a great storyline will keep you on the edge of your seat regardless of the amount of times that you actually watch it.
That's good stuff. Robb Holman, truly fun, energetic, exciting, lead the way. This is awesome. Great to have you on the show.
Great to be with you, man. I just feel the synergy and it's great. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm honored and I love the work that you're doing. So keep it up and I look forward to being in touch.
Appreciate it, man. And to all the Thrive Out listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com. You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud, or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.